Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy, and I'm here for my weekly update, and it's August 14th, Monday, August 14th, and let's see, where do I want to start? First, I want to mention that there's a lot of new Flosstubers to me that I'm enjoying now, and I realized during the season when I was several weeks behind, I was very hesitant to add new people because I was already really behind, and I knew if I added more that would just push it back even farther. So now that I'm not necessarily caught up, I got a little over a week behind again, although now I'm back to where I'm just a few days behind. Now I feel like I can add people. So I've been adding people who are not necessarily new, but they're new to me. And it's been fun to see get more involved in the community by adding more and more people. So that's been really fun. And I think I like being a few days behind more than being caught up, because then there's always something to watch. But it is fun to be not more than a few days behind, because then you just feel like you're kind of late to the party, I guess. Anyways, I have a little bit of haul to show you. I got my Lavender and Lace Enchanted Alphabet in the mail. I got this on eBay, and super excited. My fabric is on its way from Traditional Stitches, which is in Canada, so it should be here in the next few days, I think. It is 45 count. So all these little intricate letters will be able to stand out off of this light dusty green itty bitty fabric. So I'm very excited to start that. That will probably be started this week or next week. I'd like to see a certain amount of progress on waterfalls this week, which I'll talk about later. So if I reach that point of progress before the week is over, I'll start Enchanted Alphabet this week. Otherwise, I'll probably wait till Monday to start it. Just because I have some goals and plans to figure out. I feel like I'm sinking. I don't know how to fix it. It's a little better, maybe. I have some goals for waterfalls that I want to get to this week, and some research. So I'll get into that later. Last week I shared my Nantucket Rose piece, which I converted to be Anne Shirley, of Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea fame. So I made her a redhead, and I had a lot of comments on what my color conversion was, and I shared that specifically with those people in the comments, but I thought I would share it again. So I will be including here while I talk a picture of what she looked like, as well as a list of the DMC colors I used with their symbols. Maybe not the symbols. I don't know if I can do that in the editing. I will include a picture of her along with the colors I use. There's 6 shades in her hair, and Lavender and Lace made the 5th, the second darkest shade, a blend. And I originally thought that wasn't necessary because there's enough colors I could just pick a new color, but my sister thought I should keep the blend because that had the flavor of the piece and it would make it look more like hair, a little bit more natural. So we kept the blend when she was helping me pick the colors, and so the 5th color is a blend of the 2 darkest colors. So this is my conversion that I used, and if you want to use it, feel free. If you want to change it, feel free. This is just what I came up with to be a red-haired Anne Shirley. So at first it was very orange when I was stitching the highlights first, but it got better as you add the darker colors, so don't let that scare you. It started out, it felt like is this going to be too orange? But it got better, and it darkened up, and it made a very handsome auburn. So I hope that's helpful for you, and let me know if you have any more questions. My first project I worked on this week, which I wasn't sure I would get to, but I did, was my castle. And I had a couple. My main project this week was the stitching shelf, which is enormous and full of confetti. So those two things made it not the best project for a couple different stitching opportunities I had. I had company one day and the chance to stitch while I visited, but I think it was Monday afternoon, and it was the first time picking up that project after a few months. And you know, when you first pick something up, you have to kind of get reacquainted with it. And it's already super, super thick with confetti, and I didn't want to do that fresh out of the like the very first time I stitched on it. I didn't want it to be with company. I just figured I would be messing up right and left or going really, really, really slow. So I worked on my my little September thing instead during that stitchy session, which was good because I didn't get a whole lot done the weekend before. And then there was another, like a couple times while we were watching TV, I did either my September one or my castle, and we ended up going to the beach in the middle of the week. So to and from the beach, I got more time on my castle. So I got a little bit done on that. Here is where it looked like last time. And here's where it is now. Still got holes in the castle, but I think next week I'll be able to go to my LNS to get these flosses to fill the castle in, so that'll be nice. I did this and some over here, a little bit more. So just a little bit, but a little bit more of the green. And I have decided, I think I will be doing this for the rest of August for my travel piece, mainly because I want a chance to fill in that castle once I get my strings. So I'll keep this out through the end of August, even when school starts, as my travel piece. And I will, if I need more time to finish my little September project, I'll do that at the end of the month instead of this. But if I can handle that and finish that only on the weekends, that's my goal, obviously. And then in September, I'll pull out my secret stitching to work on that in the car. And then whenever that gets finished, I'll come back to this to finish this. So this will be the rest of August. You'll keep seeing that. And my other little one, well, I've been talking about September. Why don't I just show that one? This is my September. And last week I didn't do hardly any. I just had the white on one owl finished, and I don't have a whole lot more, but I have 2 owls now, and I have all the white of the owls done, and their faces done, and a little bit of their wings. There's a lot of different colors in their wings, so it's probably the most confetti on any one of these projects I've had so far, but it's fine. I didn't work on these at all this past weekend because I wanted to get a certain amount of progress on my stitching shelf, and I knew I would have extra time this weekend. My husband was out of town, so the evenings when I might normally spend some or all of the evening with him, I could stitch. One benefit to him being out of town. So, since I worked on these a little bit throughout the week when I couldn't work on stitching shelf because it was just too big or too complicated, I had a couple extra chances to work on this, so I figured it might even out, and then I'll just make sure to focus on it a little bit more in the following weekends in August. So here's where it was last time, and here it is now. Cute little guys. So I have their little faces backstitched, and I think they're cute. They turned out pretty cute. Once that back stitching goes in, they have these cute round little faces. So I think they're turning out pretty nicely. And these always stitch up pretty quickly once you get in them. So that's that one for now. I also did one more flower on my temperature garden. I did that in between columns on a stitching shelf. I finished the first column that I had half finished last time, and then I got a text. I'll answer that when I'm done here. I had a column half finished, and once I got that done, I took a break, did a flower, and then went back to the next column. So let's put this behind it. Here's what it looked like last time. And here is where it is now. So I just did one more flower, and it went really quickly because these three were all the same color, and kind of a mild week. They were all in the 90s. If you live in a cold weather climate, that's not mild, but for us in the summertime, that's pretty mild. And wow, 3 different people are texting me. I need to move that because it's getting really annoying. So there's that, and keep plugging away at that, one flower at a time. And so my main project this week was Stitching Shelf by Heaven and Earth Designs, the behemoth of projects. It's actually not my largest project, but it's probably the most complicated. I'm up here. Not a whole lot to see yet. However, now that I've finished this week, you can see a book, the spine of one book, and I've got a couple stitches put in on that key that's kind of by the door that is like the first main distinctive item. There's this key right here. So there's a couple stitches in the key that you can see. So this was harder than I expected to kind of get into, but once I was in it, it was fine, and I think a big part of it was the first 2 columns are thick confetti, which therefore is thick stitching, like literally it's thick. I was telling Lisa of Lisa Stitching and such, a piece like this that's got a lot of confetti might be better on 25 count. I'm doing it on 28. I'm doing 2/1/10 stitch, but whether you do 2/110 or 1/1 full cross, you're always going to have 4 threads in each hole. So I wouldn't imagine the thickness would be that much better doing it full cross, if not worse. I don't know, because you'd have to go in each hole 4 times rather than 2. But if it's something this thick, I think 25 count might be a little bit better, because it would be able to have room to spread out a little bit more. However, something this big is also nice to be smaller because of it's just enormous. So it's already like a yard long at 28 count, so it'd be a little bit longer even on 25, but that's something that if you don't like it being really thick, you might go down to 25 count for something like this that's got like a Josephine Wall or an Amy Stewart or something that's really thick of confetti. Once I got past that column into the 3rd column, it picked up quite a bit, and the 4th column that's coming up has a lot more of a single color, so that's going to be so refreshing. And I'd like to work on this a little bit more often next year. Maybe not necessarily every month, but I had plans in the full coverage group to do, I think, 3 times next year, but I think I'd like to try to fit it in more often just because I want to start seeing stuff. Then the more stuff you can see, the more exciting it'll be to work on it. So here's where it was last time. And here it is now. I don't know if you're going to need paper here too. So if you can see, there's all these flowers, and then this right here is the spine of a book. And this is like the paper where the title would go. It's a burgundy book with like an orange title section. And this area here is going to be black-ish, and then the door will be here with this key that's starting. There's the head of the key and a little bit of the stick. And this is, if I put too much light on it, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, so it seems like the shade is a little bit better. I am doing this with large format pages also because of the heavy confetti. I wanted it to be slightly bigger. Easier on my eyes to see the symbols and easier to mark off the symbols as I'm going. But see, look at that. That's the other thing. I'm trying not to park as much because it gets so dense. And there's so much confetti that it seems like I want to try to speed it up a little bit without getting discouraged. So, for example, this rotation I wanted to do 2 columns ideally, because I had 1.5 basically. It was like 1.5 columns that I wanted to finish, and so if I had a color in this middle column that was also over here and I still had thread, I just kept going. Especially like I'd work it down the column, and then since it's half stitches, it doesn't really matter which, if you go up or down, because when I'm doing it, it's not a set, like you come up in this hole and down in this hole. It's always the same direction, but it's not necessarily always bottom to top. Sometimes it's top to bottom, just doesn't matter. And so I would go down with this color and then back up this column with this color and then park it in the 3rd column up here at the top again. Because when I'm starting a project or a column fresh from not having worked on it, I'll start at the top. So I wanted to always park things the first place it started in the top. If I had it parked down here and I come back 2 months later and I'm like, okay, I need this color. Oh, it's not here. I'll go get it. And then I start stitching. I'm like, it's down here. And then I'd have 2 strings of it. So sometimes I would go down and then come back up and then park it over here. And if a string is, there's a couple shorter ones over here. I think this purple one is a little bit short. Where was it? I saw a purple one that was short. Now it's hiding from me. There, you can kind of see it. Anyways, somewhere in there was a purple one that was short. I had a lot of short ones parked last time, I think because it was like must see progress. So I was parking a ton, even if the strings were really little. And I didn't do that this time. I just kept going. You'll see a lot of speckles over here because I just kept going with a lot of my strings because I didn't want to park them if they were too short, or if there was only one more stitch over here, I'd just do it and put the thread away just to try to eliminate some of the bulk in the parked threads, eliminate some of the needle changes, thread changes. So anyways, that's where I'm at, and I'm hoping to do a little bit more on this periodically. It qualifies for virtually every single challenge in the full coverage fanatics thing for next year, because I mean it's got every season, and each vignette has, you know, different stuff going on. It's got animals, it's got sky, it's got flowers, it's got pumpkins, it's got fireplace, it's got snowman, it's got everything. So if I don't have anything else for a piece, I know I can choose that one. And then there's other ones that I might just choose it because I want to work on it again. And I know it'll fit. So I'm hoping to have a few more chunks next year to work on it, and maybe even more this year. I don't remember if I wrote it down for anything this year yet, but this year's plans are subject to a lot of change because I'm testing things. Going forward into 2018, I'm testing how I want to do stuff. So I want to see if I would like 4, 3, 2 day rotations instead of 5. I want to test if I like to go over the weekends or not. So I'll be testing a lot of things in the next few months to see what I want to do for next year. And regardless of how much I test, I may still change things in the middle of next year too, because that's how I like to do things. I like to make plans and then change them. So, but going forward, at least for next week, I'm back to my waterfall, and I'll do this, and then the following week, I'm planning to do an animal one for all creatures great and small, Stitch Mania theme, and then the last week in August, I was going to go back to my Christmas Queen Royal Holiday. So, however, Enchanted Alphabet is here, so I need to fit that in to at least get it started. So that's my plan. I'm going to work on this, and this month I want to count my stitches to see how quickly I can get 1,200 stitches. If it will take me a full 5 days, if it'll take me 4. I also want to try, because next year I want to use this for the numbers challenge. And I know it'll be different in the sky versus down here, which if I work on this all year, I'm hoping I'll get down into this part, but. All right, kids taken care of. They're still here. The boys start on Thursday, so next Monday, I won't have any interruptions. It's going to be amazing. The other thing I wanted to try with this one is, I don't know if I mentioned, okay, so I'm counting my stitches because next year will be the By the Numbers Challenge in Full Coverage Fanatics, 1,200 stitches every month. I'd like to use this piece every month for that, to use that as my incentive to keep going, and it for sure will count for that theme, no matter what the theme is. I also am going to fit this in. It'll probably count for other things like the water theme, so it'll count for 2 themes that month. But I'm curious to see how long it takes me to get 1,200 stitches, because if I cut back to smaller rotation time frames, but this still needs 5 days, I want to make sure to give it 5 days, and then everything else can have maybe 4 or 3, because I want to work on more of my projects more often. And as it stands, what I showed you last time on my sheet that looked a little bit like this, I had 6 main pieces every month. No, yeah, 6 main pieces every month, which is fine, but some of my full coverage pieces only got fit in once in the whole year, and a lot of them were twice. Stitch and Shelf was 3 times, just because it was the only piece that fit a few times. Excuse me. But I'd like to get 2 more of them, and also work on more that are not full coverage. So I want to try to make it to more like 8 per month. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to test things to see if I like shorter time chunks. As long as there's still 1 per day, I think it might still be alright to do a few less days, rather than trying to split my time within the same day, since my time each day kind of varies. The other thing I wanted to try with this is diagonal parking with the stitch by stitch method that Brian at Blitz Stitch likes, and whenever I see his video, I just watched one of his videos last night and told him this in a comment, and as well when I see his progress on Instagram, whenever I see the way he stitches, it makes me want to stitch on those 2 pieces I started that are like that, using that method, because it was fun. I really enjoyed that method. I liked how smooth it was. I liked how much care went into it, and it didn't feel like it was taking a long time. And I think that might be different if it was really heavy confetti, but it was still fun, even in some of the areas that had more color changes. So I want to try it on this one and see. I'm already over here, but I want to see, starting in this corner, which is where I would need to start for that method, how long it takes me using that method to get 1,200 stitches, because it will be easier to count 1,200 stitches using that method than the one I am currently doing, because I'll show you. You've seen this already. This is where it is now. I haven't worked on it since I showed it last time, so this is before and after. This is the starting point. But what I've been doing is, if a color continues past the 10 square, I'm taking it all the way till it stops, even if it's like 40 stitches later, which is fine and good for not having column lines, but it's not so good for counting. So if I were to try to count 1,200 stitches using this method, I'd have to check this column before I start and see how many stitches are available. And then if I go past the 10 square, make sure to add those on as I go, and then start, and then next time, you know, count how many are available and then add them on as I go. And it's doable, but it would be a little bit more work than if I was doing block by block. And I think if I do start over here, I'm not restarting. I'm just gonna try a new method on this same piece, and it'll just bump up against it eventually. So I'm thinking of coming over here, counting a million times to make sure it's correct, and doing that diagonal parking this way, because then it'll be easier to check every 100 stitches and just tick, 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 tick until I get to 12 and stop and see how many days it takes me. And clearly it's going to go quicker in the sky than it will down here in the rocks, in the water, but I think I want to try it. So, and I may do that on other pieces too, that I have discovered I don't like diagonal stitching when it's half stitch, because it seems like it gives diagonal lines, at least to me. I could be making things up or seeing things, but to me it feels like stitching 10 stitch diagonally leaves diagonal lines. So it has to be full cross projects, but I may do that on more full cross projects, because I just really like it. I really like how soothing, and I don't know, it's just kind of I like the results and the process. So a few other of my golden kite pieces were started full cross, as well as a couple of my Heaven and Earth designs. So a lot of them, especially the newer ones, were started 2/1/2 stitch. So those I can't do it that way, but I'm excited to maybe do more of that on as many pieces as I can. So you'll be seeing that. The other, I think I mentioned those plans, but I'll keep Castle as my travel piece until September, unless I need to switch it out for my little monthly one, if that one needs a little extra love, if the weekend time doesn't finish it. So, the giveaway that I have on my previous video, if you haven't seen that yet, go to video number 11, and I have a giveaway at the end. I mentioned that it ends on Labor Day, and I realized after the fact that some international folks might not know when Labor Day is, and I mentioned early September, but to be more specific, Labor Day in the United States is the first Monday of September, in this case is September 4th. So that's when the giveaway will end. I will not be, like, I'm 99.9% sure I will not be filming on the 4th because my husband's home, my kids are home. Not a good filming day because they don't have school or work that day. But I will probably film on Tuesday. So the giveaway will cut off on Monday and then I'll draw on Tuesday on camera. So if you didn't get a chance to do that yet, head on over to video 11 right before this one and enter if you like. No obligation if you're not interested in those projects. But it's just a way to say thank you because I reached 1,000 subscribers and I've just been having a lot of fun here on Flosstube, getting to know everybody, motivating me, me motivating you, and vice versa. It's just been good all around. So the last thing I have to talk about is 2018 plans again. And I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with these 2018 stuff. It's a little bit of this year as well, but a lot of it's for next year. And if you can't handle that, if it's ad nauseum point for you, just feel free to stop here. It's all going to be like future plans from here on out. Oops. So maybe I'll start with this year's thoughts. So as I was saying, I'm planning to start Enchanted Alphabet by Lavender Lace possibly the end of this week, probably the beginning of next week. I'll work on that for a few days. It kind of depends on how fast I can get through 1,200 stitches on Waterfall. And then I have my animal piece for All Creatures Great and Small, and then my Christmas Queen. September, I want to try doing a 4-day rotation, irregardless of weekends, which would give me, I think, still 7 pieces, because my last piece, Royal Holiday, I'll give 6 days at the end of September, rather than doing like a 3 and 3 and making it 8. Something I wanted to bring up is I will be starting, my plan is to start my Chatelaine that I bought, my Winter Wonderland band sampler, the week of my birthday. So at this point, it'll be the 5th, September 5th through the 8th is when I'll be working on my Chatelaine to start it for my birthday. So if anyone is so inclined to have an excuse to work on a Chatelaine or start a Chatelaine, come on over, stitch with me, let me know, see your progress. And I have a couple other pieces throughout September that are meaningful to me because it's my birthday month. So I'll share those as they come along. The last 3 months of the year, we'll kind of wait and see my plans based on the research that I come up with for August and September. If I like 3 days on a project, if I like 2 days, if I like 4 days, if I like 6 days. I might end up with a variety of days throughout the month. Like certain projects will get 5 or 6 days, certain projects will get 3 or 2. There'll be months in the future, like February with the Olympics challenge, where there's going to be a bunch of single day themes. So I might do something like that'll be one piece, and then either a 3 and a 2 or a 5 right there, and then a 3-day rotation right there, and the rest of this can get filled in with other things. So it'll get interesting, and I'm kind of excited to get to planning more specifics on these daily ones, but I don't want to do it yet because I don't know exactly which pieces I'll have next year. Right now, my birthday is soon. I may get stuff for my birthday, I may get stuff for Christmas, so it's hard to plan beyond those points to know what I will have available to me, because if I get something is just irresistible, I'm going to have to start it. So, and then I would have a new piece available for, my list of whips that I can choose from. So it's kind of difficult to plan ahead, but I'm planning the structure now, I guess I should say, and then I can fill in the gaps with details later. And full coverage stuff, I don't really have any desire to start a new full coverage piece. I have 19 already, and while it might be nice to have an even 20 just because it's an even number, I don't really feel like starting a new one. I have one more golden kite piece, but I'm not really feeling a start right now. I did see a Heaven and Earth Designs, somebody was stitching it on, I think the Heaven and Earth Facebook group, maybe. And I'd never seen it before, and it's not normally like my thing, but it totally looks like something my boys would like. I'll put a picture in here. It's like dragons, planet dragons or something. They would be all over that. So I put that on my wish list, but I don't know. I still don't think I'll start it, but never say never. If I show it to my boys, I haven't showed it to them yet. If I show it to them, they might go crazy and be like, I want that right out. So I might have to start that sooner than later, if there's another like really good sale or something. But because I stitch a lot for my daughter, but it's hard to know if they would appreciate anything. I've made them birth samplers, but nothing really for them. And I don't know which one would like it better, because I think they both kind of like dragons. I don't know. My younger one likes space, but the older one likes Star Wars, which is in space. So I don't know. And if I do a full coverage piece for one of them, and I do a non-full coverage piece for the other one, would it be comparable? No. So I could do one for their room, but then when they go, well, which one would take it, or would either one of them want it? I don't know. Anyways, my mind can just go sometimes. Anyways, so I updated this chart for next year with my filling in maybe 8 pieces per month instead of 6. So I kind of added 2 spots at the bottom that I added in 2 more pieces than I would normally, because I think now I want to try to still do a quarterly piece every month of that quarter. So there's now quarterly winter and quarterly air in all 3 of those, and then it switches to the next ones. And I won't work on, I have so many pieces, people. I won't work on the same piece for winter all 3 months. I'll have a different winter piece each time, because I have enough. I can change it up, and then more of my projects will get attention. So if a theme only has 1 piece per theme, I'll do it more than once, but so far I don't think so. I think the only ones that are very limited in how many pieces qualify are like the monthly ones, and that will stay once a month anyways, so it's fine. And then I added, to make sure I get in a fancy lady every month, so potentially Royal Holiday will be done, but I have, I think, like 3 other Mirabilias started and 2 lavender and laces. I think? No. 1 lavender and lace, 3 Mirabilias, and that Shannon Christine Snow Queen. I have at least 5. Not to mention the few I've been kitting up that I might start next year, because, you know, you do those things. So anyways, that's kind of something I was thinking about. Adding in a few, making my rotations just a little bit shorter to maybe get more pieces through each month, because I just have so many that I want to work on all of them, and it's nice to see progress, but it's also nice to hop around. And so maybe, and if something's getting close to a finish, I may rework things to like put that in more frequently so that it can be done. I may even at some point scrap it all and do a monogamous month just for kicks and giggles to see how I like that. And it would have to be something that's got a lot going on in it so that it won't get tiring or bored, and potentially something that I could finish by spending that much time on it, or at least get like several pages done or something. So that's something I still have an interest in trying, but I don't have plans for it specifically right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, and something I was thinking, if I do rotations that span the weekends, I might try to do the pieces that include weekend days, choose things that are not super confetti heavy, but they have bigger chunks of color, so that I can see more progress even if I have a little bit less stitching time on those days. Because most weekends I don't have as much stitching time. This weekend it was rare, and I had a lot of stitching time, and I could stay up way too late finishing my goals. That does not normally happen. So normally I'll try to pick pieces that are not, like if I have a stitching shelf on my plans for a certain month, I'll just put it on a different chunk that's mostly weekdays or all weekdays or something, just to know that I can give it some time to be able to see something after those few days. And anyways, I feel like I'm rambling now. I'm sorry. I just have so many thoughts. So many thoughts on stitching that it's just fun to have a place to vent and share it with somebody who might care. And not all of you might care, but it's just kind of fun to talk about it rather than just having it always be in my head, and then maybe get feedback from you guys too. If you hear me say something and you have a suggestion of a way it could be different or better, or something that I hadn't thought of, bring it on, leave a comment. It's nice to hear from you guys, and it's nice to hear your thoughts, and I know everybody has different stitching styles and different stitching habits, but we can all learn from each other and pick up things, and if something doesn't work for me, maybe I'll try something else, and vice versa. Anyways, now I'm rambling even more. I hope to see you again next week. In the meantime, have a lovely week, lots of stitching, and talk to you later. Bye.